Thank you so much. Like she said, my name is Sydney. I like to start off my presentation with who I am and what I love. I am third generation in our family business. We are preschools, kids are kids. My grandmother's grandparents started it together in the 60s, and we have been going strong ever since. I have a dog named Luca that I'm obsessed with, and two kids, Naomi and Jet, who I'm also obsessed with. Maybe more of the dog some days, but I do love them all. And then that is my fiance, Jay. And these are my parents. So that's kind of who I am. I love to talk about this. This is one of my passion projects. That's how this presentation came to be, is that I spend a lot of my time translating between multiple generations in our office and in our schools and helping them all understand that we really probably all want the same things in the end, but how we word it, how we go about asking for it, and the tools that we have to accomplish it are all different generation to generation. And so understanding that and going through that is really helpful. I'm going to read the chat really quickly so that I can see some of you guys. Hello, Felix. Oh, somebody from Hawaii. I want to come visit. Hey, Josephine from Maryland. Junior Bears. Hi, friends. Oh, hello, Shannon. Hi. I have a friend on here that made me happy to see. Okay, I'll get started now for real. The objectives of this session. First one is to recognize key reasons teachers leave and identify practical ways to improve retention. That's our number one goal. Before we attract new talent, we really want to work on retaining the talent that you currently have and making sure that they're happy and well supported. And we're going to talk about a framework for succession planning, what succession planning is, how to prepare for when you know your director is going to leave. I know a lot of us have, if we're lucky enough to have really good seasoned tenured directors, that does eventually change when they want to retire. So really working on our succession plan. And then we're going to implement culture-focused strategies to retain current staff and attract new talent. So our third step is to work on attracting new talent. The cost of turnover, and I added scary monsters because turnover is so scary and it happens all the time. It costs you about $7,000 per employee. Now, these are 2025 numbers, and if there's anything we know lately is that everything is getting more expensive, so turnover is probably more expensive too. But it costs you about $7,000 every time an employee leaves and you have to train a new one. It's 6 months plus of integration time for a new employee. So I know a lot of us talk about the first 90 days, but we really need to be thinking about it like the first 6 months. It's 6 months before they're really a part of your team. And that means that you need to be checking on them like they are a new person on your team for at least the first 6 months. And there is a 65% higher turnover rate in childcare. So these are the problems. I think all of us are well aware of how bad turnover hurts us. So let's talk about why they're leaving. One is a new job offer. Something about us young people is we love a new shiny bright job offer. It typically comes with better pay or a different schedule. Most young people are very short-term, short-sighted. They're not thinking long-term career, certainly not while they're at the age group where they're working with us. So we really want to be mindful of constantly competing with what's going on around us. A bad manager relationship. This one will kill you in childcare so fast because you really need the support of your director in order to be able to function. So if they have a bad relationship with that director or that assistant director, that managerial person, that can make it really, really hard for them to go to work. Unsafe, unhealthy work environment. And I am not talking about COVID. I am talking about like an emotionally unsafe or unhealthy work environment. When you work with all women, as we typically do, it can get emotionally unhealthy very quickly. So that is something that we want to look for. The job is not fun. This is a big one. We work with children. It should be fun. It can be very stressful. It can be very hard, but it should be fun. And we want to make sure that we are intentionally creating pockets of fun everywhere that we can. The job is not flexible. I'm going to talk about this a little bit later in my presentation, but flexibility is not random. It does not happen. You have to cultivate flexibility and you have to pre-plan it in so that they feel like you're flexible, but you were planning ahead. Because in reality, we can only be so flexible with time and schedules. So we just have to think about it ahead of time and prepare for that flexibility. No clear long-term career advancement path. This is a big one I want you to hold in your noggin for when I talk about it later. Hours, schedules, and breaks are unpredictable. It's really hard because most of the time I see that the job is not flexible, but the hours, the schedule, and the breaks are also unpredictable. So we are not flexible ourselves, but we are asking the teachers to be flexible with, can you stay an hour later? Can you come an hour earlier? Can you not take a break? Can you only take 20 minutes? You didn't clock in and out on time, and I didn't check on it until payroll is due tomorrow. So now I need you to leave 2 hours early, stuff like that. Not appreciated at work. And we're going to talk about love languages too, and then transportation issues, which is hard to fix. And there is one generation that leaves faster than any generation. And I think we all know which one that is. Gen Z. So when we're looking at our Gen Z friends, I'm just going to check. Okay, perfect. Okay. When we're looking at our Gen Z friends, we need to remember a few things about them because it is very easy to just see them as the young person in the room and not really see them as the whole person. So, first, it's the true digital native generation, which means that they were born with digital media in their hands. They have had a screen the entire time they have been alive, which means that if they get to work for you and they have to fill out any physical forms or physical paperwork or physical documentation, that's going to be a large barrier for them. It's going to be a large barrier to entry because they're not used to paper and pencil. And I know for a lot of the older generation, that is standard. You're going to have to fill out paperwork, but there's a lot of ways that we can digitize things that actually make it easier for you to check them, like digitizing your forms through programs like One Place or something similar. That will help you make sure that your Gen Z employees actually accomplish the task and you're able to track it better. So there's a lot that you can do with digitizing things. They also grew up in a world of constant connection and information. And typically, what we see is even the best of onboarding programs, way too early, are saying, okay, now here you are in a classroom, either by yourself or with one other person that you don't know, and I'm done giving you information. Now you're just observing and you're supposed to catch on. Now you're just watching a pro teacher, a seasoned teacher do it. But if they don't have that connection and that constant flow of information about their job, they're done paying attention. You've lost them, they're out. They also are entering the workforce earlier and faster than expected. They are coming in hot and they are coming in early. So we have to start thinking ahead of time and creating these pockets for these people because I don't want you to discount your high schoolers that come in the afternoon or your college students that just want to work in the summer. These people can be really great talent and they can be really, really helpful for you, even short term, if we have those pockets of space created for them. They're very tech savvy, so they fill things out or they figure things out very quickly when it's tech related. If they're having a problem, if they don't know how to do something, if they want to figure it out, they will figure it out very quickly. They also are comfortable with change if they feel like the change is headed in the right direction. So typically, if you see a younger generational person that's very rigid and not super interested in change, then that typically means that they're not super interested in the direction that you're headed. And they're not really great with conflict. Like it says on my last one, they're typically anti-conflict. So they're not going to come out and tell you that they're very unhappy. They're just going to either leave or quietly diminish their role. They are willing to speak up even early in their careers. We are an industry that values tenure so much that sometimes it's hard for us to authentically accept the opinion of somebody that's newer in the room. We automatically say, well, that won't work, or they don't know enough for that solution to be accurate, or we've always done it like this, so we're going to continue to do it like this. And that is not how the younger generation of people operate. They feel like their opinions hold value no matter what room they're in. They're going to share it with you. And sometimes the older generation can find that very abrasive. They find that incredibly uncomfortable because they find it to be disrespectful. And I know we'll call it 8 times out of 10. That's not the intention to be disrespectful, but they don't feel like they need to be invited to a table to speak. They will find their spot at a table and they will speak. But that's really great because that means that they are going to be your one that gives you an honest opinion. They're going to tell you exactly how they feel about how this is going to go. If you're looking for like an advisory board of teachers, they're a great one to add to it because they will tell you when they feel like something is unfair. A very socially justice focused generation. They want to make sure that things are equitable. And that one is hard. We'll talk about equitable in a second because things are not typically equal, but they are equitable, which is a little different. It's fair for everybody based on everybody's circumstances. That's something that Gen Z people really focus on. They have very little confidence in new situations. They want to be really good at something very quickly. And in order to build that confidence, you're going to have to compliment them very often. You're going to have to constantly check in and provide feedback that is positive in nature first, so that then you can correct the things that you want to correct. But you have to constantly be giving that feedback because remember, they're the generation that was raised on posting on Instagram. And the second that they post it, they start refreshing, people start commenting, people start giving them feedback immediately. So that whole wait for 30 days for feedback, 90 days for feedback, 6 months for feedback, that does not work with them. They need a constant feedback loop. Okay, I'm gonna ask everybody. Yes, positive reinforcement, 100% agreed. Yes. Okay, yay. I would love if anybody could put in the chat if there is a feature about Gen Z or something about Gen Z that you noticed that I did not mention, or Gen Z teachers that you guys have, anything like that. And it doesn't have to be positive or negative. This is a neutral conversation about Gen Z. So I like to say I do love my generation. We're very kind, but wanting to come in at a high rate of pay. Yes. That is very accurate. And it's always, I typically find it's the teachers that have either never worked before or haven't worked in childcare that have a very unrealistic expectation of pay grade. A lack of work ethic. So I'm so glad that you called it a lack of work ethic because that is so important to understand. It is not that they do not want to try hard. There is some sort of barrier that typically they are not going to tell you about that is preventing them from accomplishing the task. For example, I had a Gen Z employee that just would not shut their classroom down correctly. I mean, it was gross. It was very, very gross. And I gave her the checklist and I walked through everything with her and she watched a teacher shut down a classroom, all of these things. So when I went to her and I phrased it like my friend Beth Cannon, who also spoke in Memphis, phrases it, what is the barrier to you accomplishing this? What is getting in your way? When you are going through this checklist, what stops you? Because I thought it was a lack of work ethic. She had never vacuumed before and she did not know how to. Nobody had ever taught her how to vacuum. And so she just didn't try. She just didn't do it. And did I have to check myself? Because what do you mean you've never vacuumed before and you're old enough for me to employ? But I had to work with her and show her how to vacuum. And then that is what led to her shutting down the classroom impeccably. And it was one of my favorites. Lots of not my job. Yeah. They want to understand the why. They care about the purpose. Yes, Jen. Yes, yes, yes. They are purpose-driven people. They have to feel the why. Very feely, very warm and fuzzy. Just a simple I told you so is not going to work. But that is really great because the good news about our industry is that everything has a why. Now, it is annoying that you have to explain the why, but everything is a why. Everything has a why. Why do you have to do a name to face count? Because the state tells us so. Why do you have to bleach? Because we need it clean. Everything does have a why. So you may, and that's a great place to check yourself as a leader. I'm really into self-checks when people have feedback for me that I don't like, that makes me feel like absolutely not. That's usually a good sign for me to say, like, okay, am I doing it this way or requesting for them to do it this way because it has to be done this way? Or am I doing it because I want it done this way? And that's a really good place for you to stop and check, because the thing about Gen Z is they will hold up a mirror in a heartbeat. They will show you the type of leader that you are so quickly, because just like they like that constant feedback, they'll give it right back to you. More of a work-life balance, yeah, but she said at home her chores were cleaning the kitchen and mopping. Oh, okay. 40% of my staff are former participants in our program when they were younger, most citing that they want to work with an EC because they want the same person. Okay, but what a powerful testament to your program. They put in the chat that 40% of their staff are former participants in their program, and most are citing that they wanted to work in ECE because they want to be the same person for another child who was there for them. I mean, that is the greatest compliment to what you do ever. Oh my goodness. The marketing genius in me just feels like you could turn that into such a fun campaign. But they do bring joy and angst. They are passionate. And the thing about passion is passion comes out as every emotion under the sun. And you have to go back and just direct that passion in there. Oh my gosh. Okay. Email me after. And I feel like it can be so fake. You have to have passion. Yes, Mariah, you need passion, because that's what I want to show you guys, that all of these traits that we're talking about Gen Z, if you put them in the typical box of early childhood education, it doesn't work. It doesn't fit. It's annoying. It's cumbersome. But if you just pivot a little bit and you start to find pockets of places for them, their passion shows and it blooms, and they will be your best players. And you can't have 15-year-long directors if you don't start them when they get to you as Gen Z. Otherwise, the tenure isn't going to build. So we really have to focus on creating space for them, because they're going to come in whether we like it or not. And if they don't come in, then nobody's coming in, because they're who's coming up next. And the other generations are getting very tired. Okay. Here's what they need versus what we are used to. They need frequent feedback all the time, twice a day, 3 times a day, constant check-in feedback. We're used to occasional reviews. Now, you still need your reviews. I am not a big paperwork person. I hate it personally, but it is very useful and you do need it from time to time. So you do still need your standard reviews, but frequent feedback can be really quick and easy. Hey, Jessica, I saw in the hallway you were working on your transitions, and I know it wasn't perfect, but we talked about you working on them, and I saw you working on them, and I wanted to let you know you're headed in the right direction. That is where I'm now going to give my feedback, because really, I didn't like the way that she did that. She did not approach it well. It really needed to change, but she was trying. So I'm going to acknowledge the attempt and say, thank you so much for trying next time. And then I'm going to correct the behavior. Can you try X, Y, and Z? When Bobby was crying and you talked to him instead of getting down on his level, next time I want to do that. But that leads us into our second one, which is very clear expectations. If they're saying that something is not their job that you're asking them to do, that means that it's not in your job description, because that's where they're getting the what is and is not their job. So if you want them to do it, put it in their job description. If you want it to be vaguer, make your job description more vague. But a lot of times, what we are used to is teachers figuring it out themselves. Admin and owners, after the teachers have been trained, we want them to be solo flying. you're in ratio, so you can go get the mop out of the closet. You can go get your own supplies. You can go get this. You can go get that. And then we go back to them and ask them for things, but we don't have those clear expectations 100% of the time. So we really want to make sure that everything is incredibly clear for them. Every process is documented because that's also something that we care about a lot in this generation is that it is fair. And fair for us does not have to mean the same, but it does have to mean fair. So if you say that I am maxed out at 5 call outs, she should be maxed out at 5 call outs too. And we're really bad about this, holding new people accountable for stuff that we don't hold our 30 and 40-year veterans accountable for. You know, this 3-year-old teacher, she's great. She's been here for 20 years. The parents love her. There's not like couldn't touch her if I wanted to, but she's late every single day. But I've also decided that I don't want the new person to act like that and I don't want to get stuck in that same pickle. So I'm going to make sure the new person isn't late every single day. But the new person, they're clocking that the old person isn't getting written up for it. And that's where we get into that cycle of unclear expectations. They also really want connection. Connection inside their job is so important. So getting them together either outside of the school or more often as a group. We see a lot of separation amongst preschool teachers, especially like infant and toddler side and preschool side. You know, most buildings are set up, they're on the opposite side of the building, and the teachers don't know each other and they don't feel like they can rely on each other. You know, this group of children has had a village with them forever, whether that be a physical village or a digital village. They're never really alone. And so they don't want to be alone. They want to have a buddy to do something. There's this I guess you could say strategy to getting things done. A lot of young people I know use it. It's called body doubling. It's essentially where I am either in the same physical room with somebody and we're doing two separate tasks, kind of like parallel play, or I'm on FaceTime with somebody while we do our tasks. And that helps you accomplish your task. Yes, body doubling. So you can essentially do that same thing, but in your classroom. So instead of having planning time, one teacher at a time, do planning time, two teachers at a time. And it doesn't have to be the teachers that are besties that'll chit chat and that won't plan. But if you do that, then you are able to tell them after the fact that they didn't plan, so they can't do it together again. But there's lots of ways for you to create that connection in your school and to help them body double, to help them get stuff done because you naturally want to perform better when you're in front of another person. Also, another thing, oh, yes, it is very useful. Another thing that we want to make sure that we're doing is quick growths and promotions. And that means having a lot of little stops along the way. Typically, in early childhood education, we have a floater or ancillary staff, an assistant teacher, a teacher, an administrator, and a director and an owner. That's only 6 stops of growth, and that is nowhere near enough. You should have 600 stops of growth between the bottom and the top. And that's because when we're going to talk about succession planning, you don't want somebody that didn't have to mark off a lot of things, even though they've been here for 15 years. So they are this wonderful person. You want somebody that's accomplished a lot, that's worked really hard, and you don't necessarily need time to do that. So if you're looking at your promotional plan and they want raises at 90 days anyway. Okay, cool. You're eligible for a raise at 90 days if you do all of these things. And now I'm not just giving you a raise, I'm actually giving you a promotion. And then their title changes or they get some little extra tidbit. They want to have buy-in with your school, but waiting a year for some sort of raise and some sort of promotion is way too long to make them wait. So instead of giving them a large raise once a year, give them small little raises along the way for accomplishments that they make. Does anybody here do non-time-based promotions? How much would that small amount be? Honestly, I would take whatever your annual amount is. Everybody should have a compensation plan that is public, that all of their teachers can see. So depending on where they're at, that's how much they get paid. So very similar if you do like state funded pre-K and you have a graph. your teachers can see how much they should make, but I would say small amount would be like $20 a week, $10 a week. Um, and that doesn't necessarily, that's not for everybody every week. That's not for people that don't earn it. So if however much you would be comfortable giving them annually, I would probably split that up into like 3 or 4 smaller raises throughout the year. So that then you can give them one once a quarter should they earn it. And that gives them a little bit more to work towards. Okay, this is my Gen Z translator. This is what Gen Z says versus what they actually mean, and then how you should be responding. So when they say, I need feedback, I need to know what I'm doing wrong, what they really mean is, I need to know I'm doing okay. That is an anxious check in. That is where we are a very anxious generation. We are the anxious generation that got raised before they knew how to socially and emotionally help children like we do in our classrooms today. So there's a lot of anxiety. We also are the first adult generation to go through like 5 or 6 life-altering world events over and over and over again. And our generation turned of age during a pandemic. So they have a lot of check-in needs. And so when they say I need feedback, they want to know that they're doing okay. So you want to give quick, specific praise. If opportunity is feedback is needed, pull them into a private space. So I need feedback. I need feedback, but we're in a classroom. Okay, I think you're doing really great right now. I really love how much effort I see you putting in. I love that you are doing great with your tadpoles and that your parent reports are up to date. I do think that there are some opportunities that I can find for you. Do you mind coming to my office before you go on break and we can talk about some of those opportunities? Notice that I use the word opportunities and not issues or concerns or a negative word. The words that you pick really matter because they're going to think about them between that 30 minutes when you leave the classroom and when they come to your office. They're going to think about every word that you used. And then you always want to make sure that you're providing any negative feedback in a private space. And I know it feels kind of woo-woo, but ask them first if they're prepared to receive the feedback. And that helps them understand that they are about to hear something about themselves that might not be that great, that might not be that wonderful. That helps pivot because you kept it really positive in public because you're around their coworkers and that's the polite thing to do. But now I'm about to pivot into correcting some of your actions. So first, just ask them, hey, I'm going to give you some opportunity feedback. Are you in the right space? Is now a good time? Or do you want to wait until after your shift? Or anything like that. Yeah, feeling embarrassed in public could be a huge trigger to leave. If they feel like you have embarrassed them in front of their coworkers, they will just leave. Embarrassment is really hard for a young person to come back from. Our resiliency bounce is kind of slow. So you want to make sure that you are doing everything you can to protect their embarrassment. Sandwich is best praise, constructive criticism, and a positive follow-up for next steps. Yeah, Caroline, it also communicates to them how that you care about how it makes them feel. Yes, you want to make sure that anytime you're giving feedback, it is to help them grow. I used to use this same sentence every single time that I gave a young person feedback at my school. I don't really care if you implement this feedback within these 4 walls. I want you to take the feedback for yourself because this is feedback that will help you with any job that you have. If you take it out of the lens of early childhood and just put it into the lens of helping them be a good, happy, whole human that is a great employee, then they are way more willing to listen because all of these skills are life skills. The vacuum, that was a life skill. Not filling out your daily reports, that's not being accountable to what you said you would do. That's a life skill. Taking care of children well, that's a life skill. That shows that you care about other human beings. So taking it out of that would be great. Oh, yes, that only went to host. All this seems like a lot of adaptation on our end. Is there a way to get them to try to adapt to us or meet us halfway? And that is a great question. Yes, there is. And these steps will get you there. But we also, I lied. I'm going to answer that question in a second because I want to go over one of my slides first and put some information in your noggin, and then I'm going to answer your question. So just hold on 1 second. That was a great question, Sue. Okay, so now we want to go over what's next. That means they want growth. What's next for me? What else can I try? They want to grow. And so you're going to show them a path. You're going to show them how you grow because remember, we're going to have a lot of steps on the way, and growing doesn't always have to mean getting their CDA. Growing can be whatever. Like, let me help you. When I gave this presentation in Memphis, and I really wish that I remembered her name right now and I can't remember it. She lives in New Orleans. She works with the Louisiana Child Care Association. She's incredible. I will find her name. Cindy.
Jen Stevenson is her name.
Yes, thank you. I knew
You're
Cindy.
welcome.
She became a certified credit repair person, and she helped all of her employees repair their credit as a like plus as a perk for her employees. And they, 1 year, all of her employees were able to purchase new cars because they all had their credit repaired, and she helped them repair their credit and she helped them understand financial literacy. So that would be a way that you can help them grow. That could be a professional development growth opportunity that you don't, I mean, she took it a step further and did it herself, and that's fantastic. You could just provide them the path for these things, and that would be great too. Provide them the path or the time or the opportunity. All of these things will help them be great people, which will help them be great employees. Okay, I am overwhelmed. We hear that a lot. I saw that in the chat. I'm overwhelmed. I'm overstimulated. I can't do it. I need a second. This is a lot. And you're thinking to yourself, sister, you've got 4 kids. So we need to clock back in. But here's what they mean. I need real support. That means that something about their job is feeling unclear. Their next step is not clear. And that can be hard for us to teach if we've been doing it for a long time. When you're looking at your school and you're looking at who onboards your teachers, a lot of times we have like one person do the entire onboarding experience, but the person that's really great with paperwork and is going to make sure that your I-9s are filed properly and background checks are done, probably not the person that's personable enough to physically walk them through how to shut down a classroom, how to do a diaper change, how to feed the children, and talk their way through it. Being a teacher is a talent, it is a gift. And so we want to make sure that who we have stepping in when they're overwhelmed actually provides them real support. Most of the time, it will not be the director because the director has so much on their plate that they have a very hard time being sympathetic to somebody that's overwhelmed by 3 children. So you want to make sure that who you have stepping in those moments is the right person. Okay, and then I need flexibility. That means they want balance. And like I said, flexibility isn't done all by itself. You have to create it. So when you're looking at your schedule, I've seen schools do it all sorts of different ways. We've had some schools that pre-plan a day off a month per teacher. So Sydney, your day off is the second Wednesday. Nobody else's pre-planned day off is the second Wednesday. Teachers usually don't call out on Wednesdays. We're heavily staffed on Wednesdays. Every teacher gets one assigned day a month, or every other month. And then that is their pre-assigned day. So if they have any doctor's appointments or they want to plan something, it's like a goal, like a 3-day weekend almost. It helps them get to that point so that they don't call out randomly as often. I know I've seen some schools that take it a step further and they close once a month, and that is their 1 day off a month that they give their teachers. But this is just a great way to offer them time off without it being random for you. Okay, engaging with your Gen Z employees. You want to know their love language. If you do not currently poll your teachers for their personality type and their love language. I highly, 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 highly recommend you do it. If it's the only thing you do for my presentation, I think it would be so valuable. That way you can really understand who you're working with. It helps you understand how to partner people in classrooms. It helps you understand who to schedule with who. It helps you understand what classrooms they'd be best in, what people to put in what seats, all of the things. You also want to praise authentically and you want to praise individually. So you don't want to praise the team as a whole. You can, but it just falls very flat. You want to praise them independently. You also want to encourage life balance and you want to really mean it. My mom has a rule. She taught it to me when she trained me at our schools, and that is that you are never allowed to deny a time off request for a teacher that is trying to do something with their child. Thanksgiving feast, doctor's appointment, just taking the afternoon off. If their time off request has something to do with their children, you are not allowed to deny it. You have to figure it out. And that helped us really encourage work-life balance. And people knew that when it came time to really need that time, we would always give it to them. Provide at least 3 to 5 uniform shirts. This is a huge one. I think even 3 is too small. If you're asking them to be in a uniform every single day, you should provide 5. You should just bite the bullet. It's like $100 per employee, and it makes them so much happier. It also makes them look much more professional. You're not asking them to do laundry more often. It's really a great, relatively easy way to make people happy. Get out of your comfort zone. A lot of times, supporting teachers in the way that they need to be supported is different than how we would support naturally. It forces us out of our comfort zone. It can make us a little uncomfortable. Plan days off, like I talked about. Plan staff outings. You don't have to pay for it every time, but you should be planning something for your staff to get together outside of work. Maybe that's a picnic. Both parties have to be invested. I have employed many agencies that are willing to be in the middle. Yep. 1,000%, Miller. Miller said that they have to be invested. If they are not invested in you and they are not really trying, then you cannot be invested in them, obviously. Mental health check-ins and actually be willing to help with their answer. So, hey, how are you? Or if I see a teacher that's yelling or yelling in a classroom, instead of just saying, hey, stop yelling, I'm going to say, hey, do you need to take a 5 minutes? And then when I send them out of their classroom, I'm going to go check on there. I'm going to have somebody else go check on them that says like, hey, are you okay? Do you need a minute? Like, do you want to talk to somebody? Is there something that's going on? Because if you're just saying don't yell at the children, you're still allowing the environment that started the yelling in the first place. And here is the slide that I wanted to get to before I answered your questions. They are not creating new problems. They are just responding to them differently. All of these issues with staff support and figuring out how to love them and how to support them and how to have happy teachers, these are problems that have always existed. These are issues that we've always had. These are bumps in the road of our onboarding plan that have always been there. Gen Z is just highlighting them. They just show a mirror to what we're already doing. And so 100% of your staff can benefit from all of these things that you're doing. You don't have to do them specifically just for, oh, how do I handle staff members who do not have children that think it's not fair? Oh, yeah, you wouldn't make an announcement about it, Shannon. You would just do it. Okay, 94% of employees said they would stay at their job if their company invested in their professional development. That is a huge percentage of people. And professional development can look so many different ways, but I like to start professional development with succession planning. Succession planning will help you decide which one of your employees is worth pouring into. When you're talking about making sure that they're bought in for you so that you can be bought in for them, that is what succession planning helps you do. It helps you identify and develop internal talent to fill key leadership positions, and it ensures continuity when transitions occur. Without planning like this, you risk instability, and transitions become opportunities for growth when you do plan. The benefits, it reduces disruption during transitions, it motivates staff with growth opportunities, preserves institutional knowledge, maintains program quality and consistency, attracts talented professionals that are seeking advancement. That is an important one. So this is your 9 box grid for talent management. So if you're looking at it, the dark green in the corner, this one right here, that's your goal. This is where you would like everybody to be. This is your top of the line, best of the best. These are the people that you would fire tomorrow if you had somebody to replace them with, or you probably would have never hired in the first place. So how you're going to do this is you're going to get an entire list of your staff, set up your 9 boxes. I'm very visual, so I would probably like draw it out on a whiteboard or on a piece of paper. And you mark all of your employees. You put them in a box. So do they have high potential and low performance? These are your people that you think would do really well. On paper, they interviewed great. They're fantastic when you speak to them personally, but in the classroom, it's just not translating. These are the people that if something like that happens, that's when you really know, okay, I might really want to check myself in my program because this person was really great and is super successful, but for some reason is not doing well in my classroom. And then it just goes lower and lower. So medium potential, low performance, low potential, low performance. So you want somebody in an ideal world, you're succession planning with these 4 boxes. You're not succession planning with anybody else. Now, we know that you will probably have not a ton of people. If you have a ton of people in these 4 boxes, you're so lucky. But if you have to work your way into these boxes, you want to make sure that you're working your way into potential people and not into performance people because you want to try to cultivate the potential within them. Um, and that takes a lot of observations. It takes a lot of time that you spend with these people. It takes a lot of feedback. So you also might introduce this idea to your entire admin team and have them 9 box everybody too, to compare it with your results to see, is this really being honest? And then if somebody has a drastically different opinion, have a conversation about it and say like, hey, how did you get here? Why do you think that they are a high potential, high performance person? I have them at low potential, low performance because maybe that person closes and you don't close, and every day at close they're a rock star from 4 to 6 p.m. Then you're getting more information about your employees. So I highly recommend the 9 box. And then you want to create your leadership pipeline. So when you're looking at your leadership pipeline, first you want to identify potential high performing people. So using performance reviews, informal observations, you really want to spot leadership qualities. And I highly encourage you to decide what leadership qualities you're looking for and then try to separate the behavior from the quality and what they're currently doing. Um, the best story I can tell you is Jennifer, our Vice President of Financial Operations. Yes, that is her title. She used to be an infant room teacher at one of our schools, and my mom was the director. And Jennifer had never worked at the front desk, but she was very observant and very organized and very timely. And my mom said, I need you to close the school today. And Jennifer said, I don't know how to. And my mom said, okay, here's our standing operating procedure. Here's what you do. I think that you can do it. I'd like you to close the school. And then Sasha walked away. And now, granted, she did walk away to the business right next door and was very close by in case Jennifer needed anything. But that turned in from her closing the school one time. It was 6 years until she was an executive at our company because she had those leadership qualities that she spotted, but she just needed an opportunity. And so you really want to be on the lookout for leadership opportunities everywhere that you can be. Increase their salary and responsibilities, but still retaining them as a teacher, not necessarily a path to admin. Yes, 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 yes. So somebody put in the chat that some teachers want to move forward as admin, but some teachers don't. And that is step 2. Step 2 is once you have decided this is who I think would be great in this role, you're going to have a really candid conversation with them. I want to help you. I see you moving up. Don't put a timeline on it. Don't put a title on it, but just tell them that you're coaching them. And then you want to discuss their aspirations. What do you want to do? What do you like to do? Not everybody wants to lead. Not everybody wants to stay with you, and that's okay too. But you also want to make sure that you're not succession planning for somebody that doesn't want it. And then you want to create individual development plans. So you're going to outline specific skills needed, and then you're going to help them find those specific skills. And remember, it doesn't have to be early childhood specific. If they are going to be working at your front desk, then they're going to need conflict resolution skills. So maybe we find a conflict resolution webinar to sign them up for. Maybe we find a public speaking webinar. Maybe we find an accounting webinar. There's a lot of different things that we can work on that will help them in their jobs that have nothing to do with early childhood education. And then you want to provide experience. This is a very, very large one. A lot of times we have the people at the front desk, you guys do everything, every single thing. You have your hand in every single pot because that's how it always was. It was admin and teacher, and they were very separated. And I am a huge proponent of not separating it. There are some things that only the director can do, that only the owner can do. But if there's not a rule against a teacher doing it, really think to yourself, I think this person is the best person for this job, but she's not at my front desk, but she can do it anyway. She can design all of our flyers on Canva because she's the most creative. She can be in charge of our social media from the classroom. Sure. Now, do I have to make sure that I schedule and provide time for them to come out of it? Of course. But there are so many different opportunities for experience and for opportunities to lead projects. Have your teacher that you're thinking about bringing up to the front desk plan your fall festival. And have them, that means that they're communicating with every single person in the building. They're communicating with parents. They're communicating with vendors. That's a crash course. That'll take you 6 weeks to observe whether or not they have the leadership ability that you need. So providing them with experience like this is super important. And then you want to formalize transitions. So establish clear pathways from teacher to lead teacher to administrator. All of that should be marks on your roadmap. All of those should be official stops along the way. Okay, this is what I want you to do. This week, I would like you to send personalized notes of appreciation to everybody on your staff. They don't necessarily have to be handwritten. I love handwritten, but even if it's just a quick text or a note on their ProCare, a personalized note of what you appreciate them. And then you can schedule one-on-one check-ins with staff. Doesn't have to be every single one of your staff members. It could be just the ones that you want a succession plan with. It could be just the ones that you're having a hard time with. But I really want you to try to spend some time one-on-one with staff, checking in with them. And then I love a Caught Being Awesome program. It's also called Positive Gossip. Basically, it's where you don't tell them what you're looking for, but you reward them for it anyway. So yeah, currently doing one-on-ones, amazing. I love one-on-ones. Or even like 3-on-1s if you don't have the time to do one-on-ones with everybody. But Caught Being Awesome, Positive Gossip is where you are just randomly rewarding people for doing what you've asked them to do. So you have a teacher that never calls out, that has been at work every single day on time for the last 90 days. At the next staff meeting, randomly give them $100. You don't have to start a program. You don't have to do it again. Next staff meeting, pick a different thing. This person has come in uniform and is crisp and clean and ready to work every day for a month. Give them $100. And that helps people. They don't know. It's all of it could be any of the things that you ask them to do in your staff handbook or any of the things that are their job duties. Those are any number of things that you could be rewarded for and help them do it. You also don't have to give them money. I love Positive Gossip. When I was in Memphis, Ruth Ann Rose, who owns a marketing company, I went up to her and I said, just sharing some positive gossip. I called my mom and told her how great you look today. So I just wanted to let you know that I was talking about you and that you look really fantastic. And it makes people feel really warm and fuzzy that, you were talking about how great they look. So I love Positive Gossip. Yeah, because everybody likes to gossip. Mariah said she loves positive gossip and how much fun it is. Yes, because everybody likes to gossip. Everybody likes to tell somebody what somebody else had on. But you can it's like a natural human thing. It like scratches an itch in a girl's brain. But if you make it positive and make it fun, then it is just a really fun thing. And then this month, I would love to encourage you to review your compensation plan in your area. Compensation plan does not just mean money. It also means the different things you do for people. I'd love for you to create a staff appreciation committee. That is an opportunity for your staff to help celebrate their coworkers. So they would, excuse me, They would plan the birthdays. They would help celebrate anniversaries. You obviously are footing the bill, but they are the ones making the posters and walking the card around to get signed and sneakily blowing up balloons. It's a really fun way to get everybody involved. Um, and I know it's also a really easy way to build camaraderie with a new employee. Put them on the staff appreciation committee. Be like, oh, I just had an opening. I think you'd be great. Really, what you're doing is forcing them to talk to your coworkers and forcing them to get to know everybody. And then you can survey your staff about workplace satisfaction or workplace anything. This quarter, I'd love for you to create a 9-box analysis and launch a professional development initiative that would be more than just training, that is about people. And that's it.